And as you know, I started the move out of Afghanistan. I think it was impossible for him to stop it. But it was a much different deal. I told the Taliban, I spoke to the leader, and I said, let's call him Mohammed. I said, Mohammed, we're leaving, and we're going to get along, but just in case, for any reason, you decide to do something terrible to our country, or beyond what's normal, because they've been fighting for 1,000 years, in your country, we are going to come back and we are going to hit you harder than any country has ever been hit before. And I told him that. This was a telephone conversation, had a number of them. I said, we're going to get along great, but I just have to make that statement. We're going to hit you harder than any country. And he's a rough guy. You know, this guy's been fighting from the time he's 2 years old. That's what they do. They fight. That's what they do. They fight. Russia did very poorly against them. Russia is Russia now, not the Soviet Union, because of Afghanistan. So they fight. I said, we're going to come back and hit you harder. And I said, do you understand? He goes, ah. He's a rough guy, you know. I started off the conversation. I said, Mohammed, how are you? President Trump. Hurrah! Not a lot of social grace, but, you know, that was a nice, he was being nice. I think he was being as nice as he could be, Andy. But they're rough, you know, he's a rough, that's all they do is fight. But I said, we're going to come back and hit you harder than any country has ever been hit. And your village, where I know you are, and where you have everybody, that's going to be the point at which the first bombs drop. I told him that. I told him. And he said to me, and I think he actually meant it, he said to me, I understand. And I believe, beyond a deal, I believe we had a real understanding. And then we had the election rigged and stolen, and now they're going wild over there. That would not have happened if I were president. Would not have happened. Too bad. Too bad. But just this month, you saw this, the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, them a pandering and very, very strange letter begging the United Nations to come and investigate America for its alleged systematic racism. So you have systemic racism, he says. He wants it to be investigated. Systemic racism. I said, that's not really, that didn't happen, did it? I thought, there's nothing that's a joke about it, but I said, that's not serious, right? Systemic racism, please come and investigate the United States. The Biden administration's action is an outrageous insult to the American people and to our country. The United States of America is the most just and virtuous nation in the world and the history of the world. And I'll tell you, you're not going to have a country very much longer. You're not going to have a country. We do not, you know, always I talk about we can do this, we can do that. 3.5 years is a long time. 2 years is all they need. They're going to knock out the filibuster. You watch. I used to tell Mitch McConnell, you know what? You better knock out the filibuster and get everything approved because they're going to do it. They will never do that, sir. Why won't they do it? Because it's bad for America. Do you think they care about America? They don't care. And the first day they announced that they're going to knock the hell out of it. You watch. The two senators are going to do a foldo, and you're going to have a big problem, especially in light of all of the disasters that Biden has caused. We shouldn't be apologizing to the world. We're apologizing for America, just like Obama apologized. Remember? He apologized. They should be apologizing to America for what they've done to it. That's who they should be apologizing to. The shot. Last summer, when rioters were threatening to destroy Washington, D.C., Millie practically begged me not to send in the military to stop the destruction. I was thinking about it. It's a big step to do it. Insurrection Act, big step to do it. But I was getting close, but he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do that. Why would we ever want to do a thing like that? After walking, and I did plenty, signed an executive order on statues. You knock down any of our statues, you go to jail for 10 years. And it all stopped. It was a miracle. Right, Andy? It all stopped. Paul, that was great. We stopped it when they were pulling down statues. And then it got crazy. They started pulling down statues of Abraham Lincoln. You know, it would have never stopped. But I signed that order, and as soon as I signed that order, not one event took place. You get 10 years for even attempting to take it down. Rollout is very slow, very slow. They actually tried to take credit for the vaccine. That didn't work out too well. They don't blame Biden for anything, including the fact that the virus is making an unexpected comeback and ravaging countries throughout the world that only in a short time ago it looked like it was going to be good, but nobody says it's Biden's. Does anybody say it's Biden's fault? And I'm not even blaming him, but does anybody say it? Because the job we did was so incredible. That's why we're in the position we're in today. So incredible. And that's all they wanted to talk about. They wanted to demean, and it was a disgrace. They've turned our cities into banana republics where the innocent are persecuted while crime soars. Just look at what they've done in New York City. Innocent people are beaten in the streets daily. People are shot in Times Square. Rapes and murders are totally out of control. And yet, what are the leftists and the Attorney General and District Attorney's offices working on so diligently? This is what they're working on so diligently and with such passion. It's get Trump. They campaign on getting Trump. Their campaign, we're going to get Trump. We're going to take down Trump. They don't talk about the murderers. They don't talk about no cash bail. They don't talk about all these dangerous people walking the streets so people are afraid to come to New York. They're still coming after me because I will never stop fighting and winning for you. When we win giant Republican victories and reclaim control over Congress and really reclaim it over our country, we will halt the radical Biden agenda in its tracks. By the way, remember I used to say it's going to be worse? It's not him. I really don't believe. But remember I used to say it was going to be worse? Bernie Sanders cannot believe what's happening. He's the happiest guy. He said, I never knew this was going to happen. Is that right, Paul? He said, I never knew this was going to happen. He can't believe it. This is so much more radical. They never talked about this. They never talked about closing up the pipeline the following day. He talked about, we're going to study it, we're going to look at it. No. He did that, got some votes, and he closed it. And how about the union on the Keystone Pipeline? How about the union where they endorsed Biden? And I said, you know you're going to get screwed, but they've always been with Democrats. But you know what? The voters are with me. The voters are with me, and the workers are with me and with us. We'll stop the federal takeover of elections and stop the Democrat attack on voter ID. Did you see the disinformation campaign? So they do a poll the other day, and it showed voter ID, Andy, is at 88%, including Democrats. It's like 88%. Everybody wants voter ID. Who doesn't want it? You go to the grocery store, you give a picture. Do anything you do, you give a picture. Voter ID is at 88%. So here's their line all of a sudden. We don't want voter ID. Then one day, they pass it on and the press plays along. We've always wanted voter ID. We've always wanted it. It's the Republicans who don't want it. Think of this. And they had the same thing with defund the police, right? We want to defund the police. We will defund the police. Now, crime is at the highest it's ever been in history. These police departments have been devastated. They have treated our great law enforcement, I just met a lot of them backstage, so badly, with so little respect. But it's a very unpopular thing. They didn't know that. Who the hell wouldn't know that, defund the police? Who would not? I'm telling you, they've got advantages, but they're sort of dumb in a lot of ways. Their policy is so bad. So now they're saying, you guys see that. It was the Republicans that wanted to defund the police. It's just like Russia, Russia, Russia. It's just, they make up stuff. I watched that Shifty Schiff go up to the microphone. It's extremely important to save our country. President Trump is a paid employee of Russia. It's unbelievable. And you know what they say? If they say it over and over and over again, in a year from now, a lot of people are not going to remember who wanted to defund the police and who did it. And they're not going to remember about voter ID, Andy, and we got to be careful with that. Paul, we got to be careful with that. Debbie, you're not going to let that happen. You're not going to let it. But that's what they do. And you know what it's called? Disinformation. They make up a lot of crap, and they say it over and over and over. And one day, you say, oh, who was the one that wanted to defund? I guess it was the Republicans. The Republicans are against a very serious and a very sick enemy. We will end Joe Biden's war on American energy and ensure that the United States remains the dominant energy superpower on Earth. Can you imagine they're out negotiating with OPEC again? I mean, it's not even, we didn't need OPEC. That's why I was taking everybody out of the Middle East, because we needed the Middle East for oil. Now we need the Middle East for oil again. And look, we all have a heart. I see the same thing as you do, and we want to help people. But when you say, come up, come to America, our country can't afford it. Our system is breaking down. We can't afford it. You just can't afford it. The whole world, you know, this is in Mexico and Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador. They're coming in from Yemen. They're coming in from all over the Middle East. They're coming in from Haiti. Large numbers are coming in from Haiti. They're coming in from all parts of Africa. They're coming in from Europe. They're coming in from all over the world. And our country's not, no country is set for that. Number one, you can't afford it. Number two, on a human basis and even on a common sense basis, it's going to destroy, they are destroying our country. They're destroying our country.